What are my top 10 books for writers? Number 8 will shock you. It's coming up on the New Adventures of Indiana Jim, Episode 4, for August 10th, 2025.
Coming to you not exactly live from
The cliffs of insanity!
It Must Be Indiana Jim.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the New Adventures of Indiana Jim. Listeners from all across the fruited plain and indeed the entire world. Have you all seen K-Pop Demon Hunters? Because I'm not going to lie, that's a pretty good movie for a cartoon. Well, honestly, for a cartoon, it's a pretty good movie in general. There are some odd world building things going on where you just sort of have a little hand wavium and that's the way it goes because magic and stuff. And it's one of those. But it's not like, oh, suddenly we have magic that we've never seen. It's a cartoon. Let's just say that. And not only have I seen K-Pop Demon Hunters, but I've also been playing the beta for Battlefield 6, which is due out in October. Been having some fun with that. I'm going to have some highlights to share. In fact, let's go to the video highlights right now. Whatever. Come on. Come on, get out of there. Requires early access. Till when? When does this go live? After we did all that, let's exit the game and find out when this is going live. Yeah. You're taking on Indiana Jim, son. You gotta watch yourself. You gotta wreck yourself before I check yourself. Haha, whoa. I love the TTK. The time to kill on this is ridiculous. And I love it. I think it's perfect. Oh, what? Stupid jump shooting. It doesn't do anything in Battlefield, man. What are you doing? You'll be able to see the rest of that video over on my 40 Plus Gamer channel, which I will leave a link down in the show notes below. So as I said, we're going to have a discussion of my 10 favorite books for writers, plus an 11th bonus book. And I will tell you that most of them are about writing. Not all of them are about writing, but all of them are for writers. But before we get into that, it's time for news. Yes, it's that portion of the program where I look at headlines from the world of entertainment, movies, TV, video games, music, and publishing. Las Vegas tourism is sinking, and younger Americans could be to blame. Our top story from the New York Post. Yes, from the New York Post, we have the latest statistics confirm the social chatter that Las Vegas tourism has hit a dramatic low, with some even calling Vegas an experience of the past. Only 3.1 million people visited Sin City in June, down 11.3% compared to last year, according to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. Social media users have called out the high prices of everything from dining to parking, citing these and other reasons for staying away. Robbie Starbuck, conservative activist and host of the Robbie Starbuck Show, told Fox News Digital it is not just prices that are keeping people out of Vegas. Now, nearly everyone under 40 who bets seems to do it online, Starbucks said this week. I don't know one person under 40 who goes to Vegas regularly to bet or play slots, he added. This trend will continue with younger people because, honestly, our minds are wired differently. Now, I don't know how much it has to do with minds being wired differently, but let's carry on. The U.S. online gambling market in 2024 was estimated at $12.68 billion, according to Grandview Research. Tom Reeg, Caesars Entertainment CEO, said it would be a soft summer on a recent earnings call, according to local reports. Starbucks said generational differences also could be pushing down the popularity of visiting Las Vegas, and I think this is where the truth lies. He says another differentiator is that older generations focused on real-life interaction, while younger generations feel just as content with parasocial online experiences. The Vegas marketing image is one centered on slots and showgirls, two things young people have no interest in. He added the typical casino feel in marketing just won't be as successful with young people who have 40 options to gamble on their phones from the comfort of their own home. An additional generational difference, Starbucks pointed out, is that younger generations are ditching the bottle. Younger generations drink alcohol at lower rates than older generations did at their age. That's going to have a material impact on the Vegas business model if young people drink less. The number of people in their 20s who chose to abstain from alcohol more than doubled between 2001 and 2019, going from 9% to 22%, according to a 2019 National Drug Strategy Household Survey. And a recent Gallup survey found that roughly 38% of adults under age 35 now identify as fully abstaining from alcohol. In addition, more than a quarter of Gen Z respondents felt very concerned about the potential health effects of drinking alcohol, according to Civic Science. The hotel industry is also feeling the burn of fewer visitors. Occupancy rates dropped 6.5%, while average daily room rates have lowered to $163.64, down 6.6%. Meanwhile, a 43-story hotel and casino has been put on an indefinite pause, the SF Gate reported. So it's interesting. I had seen this pop up on Twitter, and the reason that I wanted to get into that is because I actually made this point over on my X account over x.com or twitter.com/IndianaJim. So I had made the case for this actually when I saw this on August 1st, this post from Smug Doom Posting Publishing House, talking about how things had gone badly for Las Vegas. And this person says, I strongly suspect, but I'm not sure, that gambling like this was a boomer thing, and without it, Vegas is going to collapse. And my take was pretty sure the Vegas we knew is a descendant from the Roaring '20s, and that gambling culture descended from there to their kids and grandkids, so this makes sense. Its excesses are being rejected by late Gen Xers and millennials, and were not passed to the Zoomers. So, my dad is a boomer. He was born in 52. His parents were born in the 20s. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was a engineer who worked for the Air Force. He worked on McClellan Air Force Base. He didn't serve in the military, but they came of age during World War II. They were in their late teens during World War II. And my dad and I used to go to Reno, which is northwestern Nevada. And we used to drive over from California over to Reno. And we would go into Circus. My dad would hand me rolls of quarters. And I would be in the arcade. And I'd go into the Midway, or we might be at Harrah's, or we might be, wherever. And I spent a lot of time in various arcades in Reno. And the gambling scene very much is of that boomer generation. Now, my dad's uncle was obviously his mother's age. So when you think of Vegas, you think of Elvis, you think of the Rat Pack, you think of the swing era. You think the crooners of the 40s and 50s and Elvis in the late 60s and 70s, Wayne Newton. You think of that entertainment scene. And Las Vegas was the place where you would go to see these big stars. And big stars would have their residencies there in Vegas. And people would, it was a popular spot to go from Los Angeles to get away, to get to Palm Springs and to Las Vegas, and to get out of the smog of LA and into kind of that glitz and glamour of the Las Vegas Strip. And so entertainment was the big draw to Vegas. And so they really amplified the glitz and glamour, so that when you walk down the Strip, it's showtime everywhere. Plenty of distractions, plenty of things to go do, plenty of casinos to go in and out of, shows happening here and there, and everywhere you go is something to do. And I really feel like they're onto something, saying it's kind of a boomer thing, because it's a direct descendant from the Roaring '20s, and the jazz culture and the crooner culture, and everything flows out of that. And so generationally, Vegas was seen as the destination. But I think COVID had a lot to do with just the general reduction of people who want to go anywhere at all. And I think there's a lot of things that didn't recover from that and may never recover. I don't think movie theaters will ever entirely recover from a global pandemic. I don't think that Las Vegas will ever fully recover from a global pandemic. I just think that, like, it's talking about the rates of drinking are going down, because the kids that are being brought up now, we're starting to see the ravages of alcoholism and the potential of recovery from it, and the general rejection of it. And it's not so much that we're seeing a generational recovery from moral vices, but just that those moral vices are changing. And we are seeing a drop in birth rates across the globe. People just aren't getting together like they used to. Some of that may be because of lower alcohol use, but then we have a epidemic of fentanyl dependency and other drug abuses that really aren't. You don't have to go to Vegas to find it, right? You don't have to go anywhere to find it. And this sense that everything is brought to us now. The top entertainers go on tour, and you can see Taylor Swift close to your hometown. And the artists that go into residency in Vegas, like Celine Dion, like, she was great in her time, but she's hardly like a draw for everyone. Let's go to Las Vegas to see Celine Dion. It's kind of like, oh, we're in Vegas. Hey, we might as well go see Celine Dion, right? It's that kind of thing. And so I definitely think that the Las Vegas thing is a generational thing. I'd like you to leave your comment down below. Have you ever been to Vegas? My wife and I went once. We stayed on the wrong end of the Strip. We walked our feet off till we found anything interesting. By that time, we were tired and hungry. So that didn't work. It wasn't great. It was fine. We saw it, but, and when you're walking down the road and you have a drunk person staggering back to their hotel, it's kind of like, yo, why are we in this town? This is not for us. So anyway, I'm not that impressed by Las Vegas. And I feel like a lot of people are no longer impressed by Las Vegas. I think that artificiality is something, in this era where we all crave authenticity, that fakeness, that facade of Las Vegas, is lost on people. Why do I want to go somewhere to pretend and lose money? That doesn't sound exciting. And that's what gambling is. You know, I have done sound for a few different bands in a place called Derby City Gaming here across the river in Louisville, Kentucky. And it used to be the Churchill Downs like satellite site or whatever. And you can walk in there and you can play the slots and you can play the poker machines. And in there is the most old and pathetic looking people that you will ever see. Not just old and pathetic. You'll see old people. You'll see pathetic people. And they're just sitting there. They look so excited. They're looking at they're hitting the button, put in more money, hitting the button. Even when there's a payout, they don't look excited. It's just depressing being in there. And I think that the kids of those folks are seeing that and going, there's no appeal in that for me. So, like I said, drop down below, leave a comment. You can email me at indianagympodcasts@gmail.com and get your comments on the show. Leave a comment on the YouTube video. If you listen via Substack, if you get your podcast there, you can leave that comment on the post for this episode at indianagym.substack.com. If you're listening on other platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, the best way is just drop an email to me and let's have a conversation. And we're going to get to our next news story. Gina Carano has settled her lawsuit. This really is the way. Gina Carano pile drives Disney over Mandalorian firing with settlement and job offers. Now, I don't know who Dominic Patton is. This is Deadline. I'm not familiar with Deadline being some sort of like conservative outlet. So there's a little pro Gina Carano bias, which I'm pro Gina Carano. And there's a lot of people who are anti-Disney, but I feel like some of the color of this piece is favorable to Ms. Carano. So this is updated with a full statement. So let's see. Ahead of a September trial date, Disney and Gina Carano have put down their lightsabers over the former MMA fighter's more than year-long discrimination lawsuit over her 2021 firing from The Mandalorian over political postings. In a joint filing today in federal court, the ex-Star Wars series star and the Bob Iger-run conglomerate asked for the Elon Musk-backed legal action to be dismissed. Now here's where it's biased, with the company clearly on bended knee. Is that necessary? I don't know. Pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 41A1A2. Let's see, 41 Section A, subsection 1, paragraph A, subsection 2. Is that how that's read? I don't know. Plaintiff Gina Carano on the one hand and defendants the Walt Disney Company, Lucasfilm Limited, LLC, and Huckleberry Industries, Inc. on the other, by and through their undersigned counsel hereby stipulate that this action and all claims, including all defenses asserted therein, be dismissed with prejudice, said lawyers for both sides in a short but to the point document. A judge will have to sign off on the request, but this de facto done and dusted in a galaxy far, far away and here at home. But this is de facto done and dusted in a galaxy far, far away and here at home, with a distinct win for the openly conservative Carano. There's a lot of, he's like having a lot more fun with the turn of phrase than I think anyone reading this is having. I'm having a hard enough time reading it. While no specific details on the settlement have been revealed, like whether she getting her, who edited this? Like whether or not she is getting her Rebel Shock Trooper Cara Dune role, oh my gosh, back as desired, or any of the millions in damages she was seeking, Disney and Carano clearly are back in business. So let's see here. What I found interesting, let's look at actual quotes. The Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm are pleased to announce that we have reached an agreement with Gina Carano to resolve the issues in her pending lawsuit against the companies, a spokesman said last Thursday. Ms. Carano was always well respected by her directors, co-stars, and staff. That is true. and she worked hard to perfect her craft while treating her colleagues with kindness and respect. I feel like she really did a good job. It's probably her best acting role. And it was, she doesn't have these amazing acting chops, but she was perfect for the role of Cara Dune. Like the sarcasm, the delivery, the kind of the deadpan nature. In case you had any doubt who was the victor here, let the last sentence of the Disney and Lucasfilm stay. This is awful. I hit you hard. Why do I need this to hit me hard? Why do I need to worry about who was the victor? Like, it's a settlement. Quote, now this is unexpected though. With this lawsuit concluded, we look forward to identifying opportunities to work together with Miss Carano in the near future. Now that's very interesting because I expected maybe a monetary settlement, but if she's agreed to take no monetary recompense and just take the opportunity to work in Star Wars again, like possibly, I think that's really unexpected. I don't think anybody would have seen that coming. Does this mean that Rangers of the New Republic is going to come back? I don't really know. Is it contingent on the fact that Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger are both moving out the door and other people like Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau want to get her back into the fold? I don't know. I feel like some of the public comments she made might rub someone like Pedro Pascal the wrong way. But as far as I know, they had a congenial relationship as actors. So who knows? It'll be interesting to watch as events unfold. So let's talk about my top 10 favorite books for writers. And this is maybe not the top 10 greatest books ever written about writing, okay? The most important thing about any book for you as a writer is it useful? Is it helpful? Does it teach you something you didn't know? Does it unlock something that helps give you forward momentum into your creative journey and along your creative path? So let's talk about them. Number 1, and this is not top 10 in any order of value. This is kind of building upon foundations. So the book that helped me finish writing my first novel, and this one hasn't been published, but it helped me finish for the first time. It helped me get through to the end. And that is The Marshall Plan for Novel Writing by Evan Marshall. Evan Marshall is, or was at least, a literary agent. And I read this back in, the dark ages, 1998 or 1999. I had bought the book and the workbook. And what it does is help you sort of plan out. Now, this is really for beginners. This is to help you understand kind of the science behind novel structure, really gets you into the sense of scene and sequel, or action and reaction, the back and forth, the interplay between what happens to the characters and how the characters respond. Really gets you into a rhythm, to figure out how that rhythm works, and to really help you understand how to get from point A to point B. If you need a roadmap and you're absolutely a beginner, if you can find this book, it's a fantastic book for the absolute beginner. It's not really going to help somebody who already knows how to write a novel. It's not for you. It is literally written for beginners, and that would be a good one to find if you could find it. Number 2 is The Story Solution by Eric Edson. Now, Eric Edson I first heard of on the YouTube channel Film Courage, where he was being interviewed, and they do snippets of interviews, and then you can go and find the full interview on their YouTube channel. Well, Eric Edson teaches at Cal State Northridge, I believe, in Los Angeles. He teaches screenwriting. He has been a script doctor. He has written some, but mostly he teaches and mentors. And The Story Solution is really a book about screenplay structure. But what's really helpful is The Story Solution gives you concrete examples from screenplays. And there are 3 screenplays now. It's been a while since I've read it. One of them is, I think, is Star Wars. One might be The Godfather. I can't remember for sure. But it uses 3 very famous screenplays, walks you through how the structure is laid out, all the reasons why you do things. Very, very helpful in getting you to understand the structure of screenplays, but can also be used to understand novels, because he does talk about different novels as well. Another one just like it, number 3, is The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. These books are really designed to help you get into the weeds, to get into the mechanics of story structure. Why do stories work the way they do? How does an author or a screenwriter lay out the events of the story in a way that makes sense to the viewer, that is interesting, and that wraps up in a, I don't want to say acceptable fashion, in a pleasing fashion, in a satisfying fashion, a satisfactory fashion. You know, how do you satisfy the audience? And so The Story Solution and The Anatomy of Story both have slightly different approaches. The Anatomy of Story has a lot more detail in the structures, or details in the structure, and can really help you unlock a lot of things. I've got The Anatomy of Story right here. It's not a thick book. It's very, I've made a lot of highlights in this book. Like The Anatomy of Story, another one by Mr. Truby here, The Anatomy of Genres, how story forms explain the way the world works. And so The Anatomy of Genres, he poses it as a wheel running from horror through action, myth, memoir, coming of age, science fiction, crime, comedy, western, gangster, fantasy, thriller, detective, and love story. Love story as the highest ideal. So basically it walks you through kind of, he puts it on a continuum. And it's a very interesting way of structuring the book, but he goes in depth into each of these genres and relates it to the 7 steps from The Anatomy of Story. But in each genre, there's several different story beats, which not all of them are critical. Not all of them have to be in your chosen genre. This is also really effective when you want to mix genres. So fantasy and myth often go together. So you might look at those and go, oh, what are the elements of each of these genres? How do I blend those together? How does that relate to the idea in my head? In my case, I'm mixing Western and a crime story, or mystery, or detective, a Western and a detective story. Both of those genres have different ways that they express themselves, different ideals. One of the story beats in the Western is the idea of civilization. We're building civilization. How do we relate to each other? How do we get past our baser instincts and create order out of chaos? That is an element of the Western. Whereas an element of the detective story is solving the mystery and getting into the mind of the villain and figuring out what all these things mean and solving the puzzle. So you have different elements from different genres that may work together or may not work together, and you can pick and choose. But it's very interesting to get into kind of, they're not genres in the sense that it's a marketing genre like this is a romance, this is a sci-fi, this is a fantasy. You know, it's not marketing genres. It's more story form genres. And so it's very, very interesting. And again, he's another screenwriter. He's another script doctor. So many things that we use from screenwriting can be applied to novels just as well. Number 5 is 20 Master Plots by Ronald B. Tobias. And I just started re-listening to this audiobook. I want to get the paperback, but right now I just have the audiobook that I've been listening to. He doesn't just strictly focus on plot as the events of the story. He really ties it back into the journey of your characters and how your characters respond and how that relates to the type of plot that you're using. These are somewhat related to the genres that John Truby talks about. So what are some of these plots? Well, you have, number 1, the quest. The quest plot, The Lord of the Rings. Plot 2, the adventure plot. Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Plot 3, Pursuit. Catch Me If You Can, from Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, and Leonardo DiCaprio. Plot 4, Rescue. Adventures in Babysitting. That's a really good selection if you want to, again, get in depth in the craft of storytelling. And this covers some really crucial ground, is understanding how these different plots work and why. Now, number 6, Sometimes the Magic Works by Terry Brooks. This is better and thinner than Stephen King's On Writing. This has a lot more practical information for you. It's part autobiography, part memoir, and part craft book. He's the creator of the Shannara series, The Sword of Shannara. They had a TV series based on that on MTV once. And the Elfstones of Shannara. And he also wrote the novelizations of The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and various other works from Terry Brooks there. So that's a good one to look at. Another good one is The Art of Creative Writing by Lajos Egra, I think is how you say that. And what that book does is really get into the psychology of characters, understanding character motivation, and how do we express the attitudes and journeys of a character in our writing. Extremely good, extremely well written, and really it's a little more philosophical than scientific. Really kind of helps you open up your observational skills and your critical thinking skills and how you imagine the characters. So really, really good. Much better than something like Bird by Bird or I don't know. I really enjoy it. Now, here's where we get out of the writing books and into something a little different. Number 8 is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. This is an incredibly interesting book because he goes into the world of advertising and how certain companies reach people and create new habits around their products via marketing, and then goes into how we can build better habits in our own lives. And it's a little more historical, a little more, here's what Johnson & Johnson did about XYZ in this campaign. And so the things you learn from it are kind of things you just sort of pick up on and understand how your own brain has been affected by marketing ploys. And there's a little bit at the end of the book that's really practical, but it kind of relates to all the previous chapters, and you sort of put it all together and understand how you can create better habits for yourself. Just a really interesting book. Number 9 is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Now, that's a weird title for a book. It's not a science fiction book, believe it or not. It actually comes from psycho, meaning the soul, and cybernetics actually is from the Greek that means guiding a ship. So what it really should have been called is probably the power of the self-image, or how to create a powerful self-image, or what have you. It's essentially a really good study about getting into your own head and figuring out why you believe the things that you believe, the beliefs that are holding you back, where they may come from, and how to see yourself in a more positive light if you have an unhealthy self-image, how to view yourself in a healthy way. The last one in the top 10 is this book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. This book is all about finding your strengths, your individual strengths, and playing to those strengths. It's about getting into what he calls your zone of genius and living there as much as possible. So there's 4 zones, according to Gay Hendricks. There's the zone of incompetence. Those are tasks that we are not good at, we can't do, they're not for us. Those are things we shouldn't really be spending our time doing. So if you're not very good at math, or you don't want to do your own taxes unless you're walking through a very basic online one like I do. So doing taxes with itemization and that kind of thing may not be for you. That might be your zone of incompetence. Then there's the zone of competence. Yeah, I can replace the front brakes on my car. Yeah, it saves some money on labor. Do I want to be doing that? No. But I can do it if I need to. Then there's the zone of excellence. These are things we're good at. We can do this. This may be what we do for a living. This may be our job, the thing that pays the bills. We're good enough at it, so we do it. We get paid, whatever. But the 4th zone is your zone of genius, and that is the zone of activities that you are specifically suited to do that nobody else does quite like you do or as well as you do. Now, there are people that do things as well as us, but as I said, it's the way that we do them that is unique to us, that is where we really come alive and where we really get our best results. And that's where we want to try to spend more time in our lives. So that's the top 10, my top 10 favorite books for writers. But there are some bonus books. Secrets of the Heinlein Juvenile by J. Daniel Sawyer. This, I don't call it a tome, but it's hefty. And what this is Dan goes through the all of Robert A. Heinlein's juvenile novels and what we might call young adult today. And he outlines each of the books in detail, talks about what makes them great, what makes them enduring, what makes them last, what makes people keep coming back to them over and over again over the years. Why have they lasted so long, and why did they hold their appeal? And he talks about how Heinlein actually had a specific way of structuring these books that sort of gives them the juice, that gives them that universal appeal. So a really, really good book to get into, The Secrets of the Heinlein Juvenile. Heinlein Juvenile by J. Daniel Sawyer. Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. This is where we get the concept you may have heard people talking about, the concept of a growth mindset. But this book gets into the different minds, the growth mindset and the not growth mindset, whatever that is. Chapters like, the sports, the mindset of a champion, business, mindset and leadership, relationships, mindsets in love or not, parents, teachers, and coaches, where do mindsets come from, and changing mindsets. Now, this was given to me at the school that I worked at. A lot of us read that book. It's very helpful in understanding how to help kids have more of a growth mindset so that they can believe that things are possible and not immediately close off and believe that things are impossible. That's kind of what that's about. And lastly, no self-help session would be complete without this guy, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. It's also a little hefty. This is 530-something pages with index. So this is an extraordinarily in-depth book. Well, I want to say it's about mindset, but like the Gay Hendricks book, which is much smaller and much more digestible, it's about uncovering your limiting beliefs, the things that are holding you back, and overcoming them. And they're all kind of about mindset. So those are my top 13 books for writers, my favorite ones. That Psycho-Cybernetics book will change your life, especially if you've struggled, suffered. I try to say suffered and struggled at the same time. If you suffered from your self-image, then yeah, Psycho-Cybernetics, very, very good book. You can find that in libraries. Let me encourage you too. If you have a local library, find out what their ebook app is. My local library uses the Hoopla app, where you can find a lot of really great ebooks and audiobooks, TV shows. Yeah, you can find a TV at a library. TV shows, movies, music, all kinds of stuff that through your local library you can check out for free. So I encourage you to do that because there's a lot of great resources that you're missing out on if you're not using that. So if you want to be a good arch geekologist, you got to get into the library, right? Okay. So that's going to do it for me for this week. I'll be back next Sunday with another episode. So until then, do things good and make stuff. And I really need to work on an outro because I don't have one. But, that's it for me. So see you next week. The latest bloopers, they're fun. These are just the ones that I've found useful. And I think that's what's important is how this camera keeps tilting